Success Insight shares the stories of the people with passion and drive who make things happen in the world. Here's your host, Howard Fox.
Hello, everybody. For my co-host, Randy Ford, this is Howard Fox, and we want to welcome you to another episode of the Success Insight podcast. Our guest today is Annette Rodriguez. Annie, as she likes to be called, is the author of Lifeforce, a young adult fantasy novel, which was published recently by Green Writers Press. Annie, welcome to the Success Insight podcast.
Thank you.
So Annie, before we get into Lifeforce and you telling us what the book is about and some of the messaging in the book, curious a little bit about your background. What led up to you wanting to pursue this little portion of your life? Because you've got a lot of things going on right now. But tell us a little bit about writing and how you came to write this really interesting fantasy novel.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I still am, because I'm in school, a classic book nerd. I love to read. I love to learn. I draw the line at studying. I think it's a little harder to get into, but it just lets me know that there's so much knowledge out there that we can't even begin to grasp. And the more we know, the more we realize what we don't know. So I kind of wanted to daydream and kind of pretend what if something was different? What if, for example, Lifeforce dwells on beings that have either supernatural abilities or magical powers? And I started to think about how different life would be if we had something special going on. But discovering this through my writing, the more different we want life to be, the more the same it is. We still have responsibilities. We still have bills to pay. So I kind of wanted to convey that in my writing, not just in this book that came many years after my passion, but it's my baby. So
no, most definitely. I kind of equate writing a book to birthing a baby, but I think that your context and my context is a little bit different. I read in the notes that you actually started to do a little bit of writing when you were like in the 5th grade. I don't even remember how old that is, probably in your teens or early teens. But
About 10.
About 10. What were you writing back then? Is it anything in particular?
Well, I think I was gravitating towards the classic fairy tale theme. I was crazy about Disney characters. I saw every movie. I read every book. I love audiobooks, but they were a little creepy. As a writer, I have a very active imagination, so the witch's voice kind of linger on my back of my head, and I would have nightmares. So I stuck to books. And, my first books were like Boy Meets Girl, Girl Falls in Love, Happily Ever After, or something like a cop that wants to pursue a really bad criminal and she finally gets him. So kind of cliches. And while it was good practice, I knew, of course, not in the 5th grade, you think your work's perfect, but I had it criticized. So it was a rude awakening for me to say, you could do this better. It's like, okay.
Now, was the rude awakening, was this a teacher, a mentor, or just a friend? Because in human development, those kinds of rude awakenings can be very impactful, even into our adult life. But whatever that rude awakening was, you took that and continued to evolve your writing to the point you've got this novel out there.
Well, some of my teachers read it, and I think they just took it as like, give me an A for effort. But this was a contact of my father's. He was a journalist. He used to write for a newspaper. It's like, I got to hand it to you. You got a really active imagination, but you got to tighten it up. When the writers do stream of consciousness, you write a lot. That was kind of like my problem. And it still is, actually. My editors, I love them. But I think I learned because I stopped writing for a while. Everybody gets disappointed for critiques when your work's not perfect. And I was a perfectionist, and still I'm working on that. So I guess it didn't leave me alone. It was just something that I really wanted to do. So it's like, you got to work on it.
Well, good. I mean, that's important. I mean, part of our own personal power and resilience and success orientation is to take other people's feedback. I mean, we don't necessarily have to agree with it. Hopefully it was given in the spirit of, love and wanting you to succeed, but to be able to take that feedback and take the pieces that you can learn from it and continue to develop your writing. How did you end up in this adult fantasy realm? I mean, you talked a little bit about fairies in the early stages, when you were really young, but how did you kind of land on this adult fantasy genre?
I think I was raised a Catholic, and it was very ironic for me because I wasn't allowed to see the strong movies that take the spiritual level a little farther. And one of those movies was Underworld. Kate Beckinsale was on it. I watched it about 3 years after it was released. I was a senior in high school and I was like, I am big. I can watch what I want. And it really inspired me to see that the way that the director played with the characters, it was like they had real problems. It wasn't something like dark, like to an extent, yeah, it was a dark gothic atmosphere, but it made the main character seem like a person. And I think that that's something I wanted to peel away as I was writing. Like we react adversely to everything that's different from us that we're not used to. And so I wanted to breed some acceptance and tolerance. Just because they look strange doesn't mean they're bad people.
Now, in Lifeforce, do the protagonists, so you've got the heroine, if that's what you would call her, the hero, she has a problem, she needs help, and you've got the mentors, the guides along the way. Is this totally just a fantasy realm, or is there kind of like a semi-human element to this where they are mixing, and it's not your typical vampire's going to bite you on the neck, wolf's going to tear you apart on a full moon, or are they living and existing somewhat side by side?
Well, they are. I wanted to get some real life themes in there. As a teenager, I was I guess every teenager is dramatic. I was not different. And I just wanted to convey that. It's like, that's part of your life. And magic, makes it better or worse. You be the judge, I guess. But I wanted to see their human side. It's like, there is family and there is friendship. And I guess powers don't really equate to that. And a mentor figure is something that I really value as a person. So I just wanted people to know, it's like, you can have somebody special in your life that maybe you do not always agree with, but they got your back.
Right, right. So who are your readers, and who are the folks that are going to want to learn more about this type of novel?
Well, it's interesting. I started Lifeforce, a little bit of a new adult novel for people like in college, because my characters are not in high school. And that is something that you expect from a young adult novel. Like they're in high school, is their drama. It's like I can appeal to younger audiences, but high school is something that either is being done or I don't want to do it. So I guess Lifeforce has been interesting in the fact that, yes, I expect audiences from 13 on to like the book, primarily girls, because it dwells into the romance part and the drama part. But I've had a lot of adults actually gravitate to it too, because it does offer some almost parental relationships.
Mm-hmm. Now, with the character, she's 16 years old. What is her struggle? I mean, we can obviously go out to Amazon and onto your website and learn more about the book and the other sites that have highlighted your book. But what is the message and this change it has to, or insight, transformation that needs to be overcome for this character in order to come out the other end more, whether it's powerful, confident, self-assured? What is that journey for her? What's she looking for?
I think that she obviously she's very close to me. She's my character, but is a fear of failure. She thinks that she can never measure up to her friends, to her mom, and she really thinks that she's gotta do a lot of things herself. And I think that we as a society expects the American dream, you pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But it's like, well, family, it's all you have. And if you can't lean on them, whether it's biological or family you create, then what are we living for almost? So it's a fear of failure to overcome her confidence problems. It's like a lot of teenagers and young adults are finding themselves and worried that they might not be good enough. And I was in their shoes. So I wanted to write about that and say it gets better.
So ultimately, she's struggling with the fear of failure, and to overcome that, she has this do-it-yourself, well, I can do it. And in order to succeed, I have to be the one that does it. But ultimately, the lesson for her is that she doesn't have to be perfect. She can rely on her family or friends to help her along the way. Would that be a correct
That's
reflection?
a very correct assessment, sir. Yep.
Oh my God. I think now I'm totally going to get into this book. I can tell you that. So what has been the reaction to the book? I mean, amongst your family, and, you shared a little bit of an anecdote regarding a coworker. Let's talk about, you're the author in the family. You're the author in the friendship circle. So how are your family and friends reacting? We got an author in the house.
Well, my parents are both very supportive. My mother has read the book twice, which is weird because her English is not her first language, but I'm having it translated right now and she's helping me out. So yay. Yeah, I was surprised because I'm in law school right now and you see it painted in the media as this big competition. It's like, who's a better lawyer or who's a better law student? And I'm very surprised to see that they've been very supportive of my endeavors. They think it's really cool. They want to know more. They want to recommend it to their friends. And it's like, yay!
Well, that's fantastic. Now, some of your peers, your coworkers that have actually read the book, what have been their comments to you about it?
Mostly very positive. You mentioned one of my colleagues at work. It was actually my supervising attorney who will probably listen to this podcast. So, hello, I love you.
Good. We can give him a shout out.
Yes. Hi, Andrea. Yes. So she is a fantastic attorney. But as a lot of overwork, overstressed people do, they really carefully select what they want to read because they're reading cases all day. If they want to read for leisure, it better be good.
Of course.
So I told her in passing that I had written a book and she's not a fiction person. She loves the Harlem Renaissance, a lot of biography, but not a fiction person. So I said, it's okay if it's not your type of book. I'm just telling you. And she's like, oh no, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to read it. And she read it on a weekend, And we arrived in the car discussing it and she loved it. And I was very flattered. A person like that, capable, amazing, that doesn't read fiction. And one of her first works of fiction is mine. And she loved it. And she's very much an adult.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And I'm curious now given the experience, I mean, you've been writing since you were early teen, 10 years old, and now an accomplished writer. I do know that there's a sequel planned, and let's talk about that in a second. But I am curious, now that you've accomplished this, and by the way, just in the spirit of full disclosure, I can't believe you're writing. You're also in law school. It's like, I don't have much hair left, but whatever it was, I'd be pulling it out. You're very busy, but how are you promoting the book? Are you doing any readings? Are you going to bookstores or other podcasts? How are you promoting the book?
Well, yes, I've been to another podcast. This podcast will change your life. And mostly through social media. I mean, I went to bookstores close to my hometown and in my hometown. They were very forthcoming about it, very welcoming. Just bring samples of the book, but it's been mostly through social media because I guess everybody's busy, including myself. So my publisher has been very gung-ho about it. It's like, we'll work with your schedule. We'll do what is necessary.
Yes.
And I mean, she says the book is selling and word of mouth, especially if you live in a small town, is very powerful.
Yes, it is.
And sometimes I just don't even realize that. It's like, I don't have time to do this, so I'll do this instead. It's like, your friends do most of the work for you. It's like, thank you.
You know that your character, Jillian, could take a lesson from you that's what your friends and family are there for. I mean, we want the best and they're there to help you. I'm curious, now that the book has been published, it's out, what has been your lesson learned? What do you know now as a result of coming out the end of this process of birthing the book, seeing it out there, it's being consumed, read? What's been the big lesson learned for you?
I think editors are a big plus, not just because a publisher might want to have something different with your vision, but I stuck to my guns and I'm glad I did. But the editor is like, okay, I understand you want this, but this sounds a little this or a little that my understanding is not the same as theirs. And as they're perceiving it, is the public that will read it will probably perceive it the same way because they're looking at it through a different lens. I'm too close to it. I'm biased. It's my baby. I love it. I think it's perfect. And they're like, well, hold on. It could be more perfect if. So I learned very early to respect their opinion and to say, what do you suggest? What can we do to make it better?
What suggestion would you give to another young aspiring writer if they wanted to write a book? If you could give one piece of advice, I mean, you just described, the value of the editor and the publisher, but is there any other advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Two things. One, finish your book. A lot of people that start writing, start dreaming about publishing very early and kind of sort of neglect their book. It has to be finished. When I first walked to my publisher, I made it very clear that the end was not nearly as I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be perfect. And it was just the most grueling month in my life just to make that perfect. So finish it. You have a finished product to show. And second of all, stick to your vision. A lot of people say this might be better if you do this, or this might be better if you do that. But that vision is you. And I think that an author that is unique is better than an author that maybe rehashes a formula just because it works.
Sure. And that's important. I mean, even in the coaching realm, we talk about coaching versus giving advice. Advice only works for the person who's giving the advice, whereas hopefully feedback is given in the spirit of an opportunity to grow and create insight. Definitely, I like the idea. Finish the book and stick to your vision. Now, we've just barely finished the celebration of getting the book out there. You're working on the sequel now to the book.
Yes, I am. It was kind of like an understanding between the publisher and I really wanted to make a trilogy of books. But he said, in his infinite wisdom, if we can make a series, that's great. But make a book that stands on its own, that you don't leave the cliffhanger. So it flows better. And if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, you'll still have that to stand on. But it was an understanding that, this is what I'm going to do. And my editors and publishers is like, oh, well, if she wants to do it, she's going to do it. It's like, yes, so I'm working on it.
Okay. So right now, given you are in law school and you have the rigor of getting through your program and everything that goes into passing the bar and putting your shingle somewhere, are you able to work on it consistently, or is it just doing background notes and research on it right now?
I'm about 30 pages on it. I feel like if you pick like 15 minutes, like even if it is once or twice a week, just 15 minutes over lunch or anything like that, it actually, writing relaxes me, so it makes me feel better. I perform better on my homework and I feel great. So I feel that is less overwhelming that, I can't do it, so I'll dedicate my entire Saturday to write. It's like, no, it's just not doable at this point.
I love that piece of advice. I mean, you've now given 3 pieces, finish the work, stick to your vision. And then rather than trying to say, okay, I'm going to stay home for the weekend, lock myself indoors and write, that doesn't work for you. It's to plan a little bit every day, 15 minutes a day. And those kinds of time blocks, I mean, there's studies that show that's very effective. And whether it's a specific time of the day, but you can't end your day until you put those 15 minutes in. That's wonderful. So with you and the work and the books and law school, where are you going as a young professional with some really amazing accomplishments that one you have already and the ones that are coming up in your near future? Where are you going? What are you going to be doing?
Well, I'm hoping I got into law school to be a health lawyer. I have a background in public health and I love the research. But there's a lot of things that people with medical degrees don't have time to do, which is the research and the politics. And a lot of people with the politics that have time to do it don't have the medical background. So I'm trying to kind of bridge the gap into those. And I was lucky enough last summer to be working with family law. And I actually found it fit me, I guess, because everybody has a weird family member or weird this or weird that. And we love them. They're our family. So I found myself in my niche, so to speak, and they actually connect pretty well. So that's my goal as a lawyer, to keep being a writer, because that's my de-stressor and that's my outlet for me and for the world. And just tell people, like, whatever you want to do, just keep pushing, because there's always, I found it in the most unexpected of ways, there's always someone that will help you and will lift you up when you least expect it. So
that's actually, I love that. And I'm actually curious in this journey that you've been on. I mean, you've got a lot of folks that have crossed your paths. Are there some individuals in particular that have been, wow, where did that come from? I'm so grateful. That anybody in particular that you'd want to highlight, call out, describe? You don't want to embarrass them, but I think it's important when we do our work and we commit to it. We never know where that support's going to come from, and in the most unlikely places sometimes.
Well, there's three that come to mind. My late mentor, his name was Joseph Orr, and he used to be a Mahoning County coroner. And I remember him teaching me to be curious, to be a student, to be a good politician, but just standing by your vision. And he was just a really great teacher and a really great sounding board, gone way too soon. May he rest in peace. There's another person, Dr. Cynthia Sutton, sociology department out of Thiel College in Greenville, where I did my undergrad. She's been there for me like 100%. Like when I said, I want to do this, or I said, this isn't working. She's always been very practical, very pragmatic. She's no nonsense, go do this now type of person. I need that in my life. Always there when I need her. But there's a third person that I already shouted at her. Her name's Andrea Borton. She's a staff attorney at Community Legal Aid, and she doesn't like the publicity, so I apologize.
Sorry.
But she's been amazing. It's like, your first year in law school is a little crazy. You don't know what you're doing. You're getting into the swing of things, and then you're going into practice. And it's like, you realize you don't know anything about anything. You're just going to smile there and hope that she teaches you something. She's been really amazing and has really given my legal career, as short as it is right now, some real deeper meaning. It's like I can wake up every morning and say, this is what I want to do, and I'm on my correct path. And that's really priceless. So that's why I embarrass her, because I love her and I'm thankful.
Well, that's fantastic. So this is going to be set in stone and available forever now, since it's going on the internet. Listen, I'm curious, in the last few minutes we have together now, you have family. Are they here? Are they back in Puerto Rico? You also have a twin sister, as I recall.
Yes, I have a twin. She's actually a surgical resident in York, PA. Very gifted. She has my book. I'm not sure if she has a chance to read it with being so crazy at the hospital, but I hope she does. My dad is still in Puerto Rico. He has his own business and he takes care of his mother. And he doesn't like the layering. It's not so much the coat as the layering. It's like, no, you cannot put a t-shirt and a coat on. That's not how it works. And my mom is living with me. It was kind of like a request I made of her when I was in school. Well, a couple of years ago. I still am in school, but yeah, I was graduating from my undergrad with my student teaching degree, and I didn't have time to do anything. So I begged her to come here and kind of give me moral support. So, yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So I have no doubt that they're all proud of you, and even your extended family as well. Annie, in the time we have together, what is the best way for our listeners to learn more about you and your work? Where should they go?
I have a Facebook page, Annie Rodriguez. Just search on Facebook, you'll find it. Or I have a website. It's still in development. So all of you graphic designers, just forgive me. I'm just not a visual person at all. I can play with words, but pictures and everything is my weakness. So it's AnnieRodriguezAuthor.com.
Fantastic. Yeah. And well, what we will do, Annie, is we'll put in our show notes links back to your Facebook page. We'll put the links back to the website. And of course, the book is available in numerous locations, but specifically it's available on Amazon. And we will also provide the links back to the book as well. And it has been a pleasure to have you on the podcast to learn more about you and your work. And it is just no small feat to write a book, and especially one of this kind of genre where you've got different characters, you've got story. It's not a formula. And these are characters living their life, and to be able to put that down on paper the way you have. And, who knows, maybe there's going to be a movie based on the book. So maybe there's a screenplay in your future. You never know. You never know.
That's right.
Thank you so much for being on the Success Insight podcast. And before we go, and I know you've shared a lot of nuggets with us, but we have a feature. We call it a insight to go. And it's really just, there's an idea, a quote. Maybe you want to read a passage from the book, or there's some tip that you have that you would like to share with our listeners. What would that be for you?
I think I've mentioned it already, but I cannot stress it enough. Look for and listen to mentors, people that want to help you succeed. They're there. You just have to look for them and express your interest, because they'll push you so far, and you've never knew the places you would go just for that little push. So especially when we as a society, social media, it makes us feel so alone sometimes. They're there. Just keep a lookout for them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Annie, thank you again for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I'm sure you're going to go either spend 15 minutes writing, or you've got to go do some studying. But I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us on the Success Insight podcast. There you have it, folks. We have been chatting with Annie Rodriguez. She's the author of Lifeforce. It's a young adult fantasy novel. It's published by Green Writers Press. And we will provide the links back to the book on Amazon. We'll have that link on our website. We'll also have a link to Annie's website, which is AnnieRodriguezAuthor.com, as well as her Facebook page. And I love some of the podcasts like today is that, that there's a story. We have authors who are creative. They have a vision and a passion for what they're doing. And this type of writing, it's a pleasure when it most definitely comes through and we get to learn about it. And I hope, if there's anybody in your life, some young adult that you think would enjoy having a copy of Lifeforce, do go out to Amazon, pick up a copy of the book, and do go out on Annie's website, AnnieRodriguezAuthor.com. She's got a contact page. Let her know what you think as well, and put a comment on the Amazon page too if you do buy the book. If you'd like to learn more about us, we'll have our links to the podcast and to First Story Strategies and Fox Coaching on our website as well. So there you have it, folks. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a phenomenal day, be safe, and go make a difference. And ask yourself a question: who's my mentor? They're out there, and sometimes all you have to do is ask. Have a great day, folks. Bye-bye.
Success Insight is a production of Fox Coaching and First Story Strategies. Find us online, successinsightpodcast.com.